Hello, it's Monday morning and we've got a bit of an interesting one for you today. Sharon in Barrage said that it would be interesting to see if the Steam Deck could be daily driven. So for the next week, that's just what I'm going to be doing. And it's right here where things started to go wrong. I know, barely 10 seconds in and already this whole plan has been derailed. But how? Johnny, bring up the slides, please. So the rules were simple. I must only use the Steam Deck as my daily driver. I must use SteamOS as it was delivered, keeping it in read-only mode, and I must make my dad a cup of coffee before he leaves in the morning. I love my papa. Oh, and obviously I can use my work laptop, which is this rather fetching Dell Latitude 5310, since things like Teams and server access have to be accessed through a VPN. And straight away, rule number 2 was broken. I'm a developer by trade, and that week I was working on some Go scripts. Go isn't installed by default, neither is Visual Studio Code, which is my editor of choice. Very quickly, what I mean by SteamOS is in read-only mode, also known as being immutable, is that the USR folder cannot be modified. In Linux, this is typically where programs are installed. There are a wide variety of reasons as to why Valve made this choice, but the most important one is stability. If user is locked, you can't break things, and seeing as the target audience for the Steam Deck is the casual market, I mean that in a non-derogatory way, the last thing you want is for people to get frustrated because they accidentally installed a program incorrectly and break their install. Yes, that can also happen on Windows too. So what? Does this mean we just can't install programs? No, actually, introducing Flatpak. Flatpak is the revolutionary way to install applications across the Linux ecosystem, with bonus features including sandboxing to protect not just your data, but also your system in the event of crashes, and library requirements to make sure you don't end up in DLL hell.
DLL hell?
Plus, unlike Snap, it cares about the theme you set on your machine. Who put that asterisk there? Was he... And its name is cooler too. Does that mean it's all sunshine and lollipops? Come on, you should know this by now. That's not how the world works. Dog! You can see why Valve likes this option. It's newcomer friendly while still being flexible enough to allow for some powerful applications to be downloaded. KDE Plasma even gives you a familiar App Store-like layout to boot. Okay, I promise we'll get into the good stuff you're all here for. Why did all that explanation actually matter? Well, because of the 3 things I wanted for work, Visual Studio Code, Microsoft Teams and Slack, none of them had official Flatpak versions. Yeah, that's awkward. Now, it's all open source, I get it, but I'm not signing into anything unless it's officially supported, and that's going to be an issue, so time to break rule 2 immediately. I disabled the restrictions on the user folder and proceeded to install the apps I wanted, and from here on out, actually, I didn't really think twice about using the Steam Deck at all. That might be disappointing to some of you, but no, really, using the Steam Deck is just like using any other laptop or PC. Before I go through the week with what I did so you can get an idea of how I abuse this poor thing, let me talk about why disabling the read-only restriction might not be a good idea. Now, I'm not trying to be elitist or anything when I say that casual users should leave it enabled, but when learning a new skill, you should try to take it slow at first. Don't try to run before you can walk, because that's always going to leave you with a bad experience. If you've never used Linux before, then I'd say definitely take some time to learn the quirks of the system. And a top tip here is, rather than thinking, how would I do this on Windows? Instead, try looking at it from the angle, how do I perform this task? Linux can be familiar on the GUI side, but underneath, Windows and Linux are very different. How many times did you break Windows before you master it even? A few. I know I did. If you've used macOS, however, the operating systems share a common ancestor, so I'd argue the jump between one and the other is probably smaller than that of Windows to Linux. Finally, all that preamble is out the way. Can we get to talking about how my week was? Oh, hold on. Oh. After I got set up with everything I needed, I then decided to get Final Fantasy XIV set up. A new patch had just come out, and what better way to christen the Steam Deck than getting it up and running with my favourite game? Some changes had happened to the launcher which makes it harder to run on Linux, but not impossible, and here we are. Here is me playing some older content as not to spoil the new stuff. It's running at 1080 with the lowest preset, and although it's not running at 60, considering the pace of the game, eh? I had no problems. This is what I did most this week on my deck. I love this game, I have a problem, please help. Initially, I assumed that this was a CPU bottleneck because this game is quite heavy on the CPU and changing the graphics settings didn't really make that much difference until we started getting to the higher presets. But no, the GPU was getting proper slammed. It is only reporting 1GB of VRAM, but even so this game isn't that graphically intensive. It was on the PS3 after all. It kind of dawned on me during my play sessions that the Steam Deck is a perfect LAN machine. Imagine a group of people, each with a deck, playing TF2 or Splitgate, or even Final Fantasy XIV together. LAN party? Anytime! Code time! And as you'd expect, coding on Linux is a pretty fine experience. The only gripe being that I couldn't sync my settings and plugins through VS Code's built-in sync service, since it requires a keychain service of some sort to store your credentials, and I couldn't be bothered to install it, but everything else worked as expected. I also spent time writing this very script on the web browser. I use iCloud because it's got cloud and desktop and the mobile, and is free. But none of that original script made it into this one, it just sort of became my daily notes, which is cool. I also took a language lesson on the deck, although I must admit that I actually use my iPad to take the notes since I'm trying my hardest to live a paperless life. Or something, I don't know. This stylus is pretty cool though. I decided to do some creative work on here too, designing the rough draft of what we want the new look for Dream Middle to be. Ooh, just a sneak peek for you all here. No guarantee this is what we're going to go with, but it was fun messing around getting GIMP for a while. Sorry this hasn't been super exciting so far. My daily driver is a Linux machine, my laptop is a Mac, like I literally did zero adjusting to my daily workflow in order to transition over to using the Steam Deck. Maybe this wasn't a very fair thing to do. However, I think the lack of anything extraordinary happening is a good thing, right? I guess the performance hit was not that bad, to be honest. One of my friend groups meets up twice a week to show each other new shows. Right now we're watching Farscape. Here's our favourite character. Could you tell? Performance was perfectly fine. The fans did ramp up a little bit, but my monitor is fairly high in resolution and I was browsing the internet too. I mean paying full attention to the screen, of course. The only time I actually had to use another computer was when I had to take a video call. Steam Deck has no webcam, but if I had a USB webcam I definitely would have used that instead. Oh well. So yeah, that pretty much sums up my week. Wholly uneventful. Well, there were a few bugs. Let's quickly rattle them off. Bugtown, USA. Sometimes a Steam Deck, after waking from sleep, wouldn't switch back to its built-in display when I unplugged it from my dock, which was awkward. Restarting the device didn't fix the bug, but shutting down then turning back on did. Sometimes whilst using my Sony headphones I'd occasionally hear a pop, and the audio would stop playing. Simply opening the volume mix was enough to fix this, however I didn't really happen with other headphones I use. Also, with disabling the immutable file system, Valve has commented that future updates might not only re-enable it, but write over the contents, effectively factory resetting that CoreOS files, so I guess your mileage may vary. That's it! Literally nothing else to report. I guess in conclusion, the answer to the question, can the Steam Deck be used as a PC, is yes! And for the price, it's fairly affordable too. The downside is that this is still a laptop grade processor and GPU, so translating that experience to a bigger screen doesn't work out as well as one might think. But by all means, it is still perfectly usable. So there you have it. Will I be doing that anytime soon? No. I got me a more powerful desktop PC, but at least I know that if I'm without my laptop as well, I have a perfectly usable emergency PC, ready to go whenever I want it. Hey, thanks for sticking through this video. Really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, leaving a thumbs up, maybe even subscribing. Follow us on Twitter as well as Facebook if you want to keep up to date with what we're doing next. Join the Discord if you want to chat with us in real time. All these things that YouTube channels say and I'm commenting over because it's meta. I've been Monotilla and we'll see you next time.